Hey, so I've got another Houdini points example here. I've put on the Vive just to mess around with explaining the concept for the idea I had, and I'm going to try and use this pen. Now this is just an experiment, it's probably going to go horribly wrong, but yeah, let's see how it goes. Right, so I use the blue. Okay, so you have to... Cool. See if I can hold on to this. I am Pablo Picasso. No. So what I wanted to do was, I thought if I had a wall that was like this, kind of a floor, but I had a hole here, and if I had a bunch of points, so I'm just going to draw them as circles, but just pretend these are points. Bunch here, just do that many. So what I want them to do is I want them to, if I change the colour of the pen, I want them to travel through here and then start making their way around. But at the same time, I don't just want them to go down, because then they'll just go down forever, which is not what I want. I just want them to, if I draw the bounds here. Cool, so pretend these points are they're in room A, and I want them to go to room B, so they just have to go through this door, but at the same time, if they were just to go straight down, they would get stuck here. So they'd have to be, traveling left, right, and up a bit to just get out of the way of each other. So to give them a little bit more free motion, I'm going to say, I want you to go down, prioritize the down motion, but if you can't go that way, just pick another random direction, and if it's empty, go there. So for example, this point here could go to here, because it can't go down, and these two are full, so it can go there. This one here, it could go down, which is good, so it's going to prioritize that. This one here, can't go down, can't go right, so it's going to go here. And then eventually, go yellow, eventually once these points have moved all the way down to here, they then can't go down anymore, so they're going to be traveling sideways and up. So they're going to, they're going to go sideways, up, just move around. And so that was the thought, and the idea was that they would all scramble to get through here. Well, not scramble because it's not crazy AI, but they would all kind of be running around like block kind of motions, and then if they would make it through here, then they would go through, and then they would start, expanding outwards, and just once they'd all settled, they would, because they still, even though they can't go down anymore, they still go sideways and up, so you get like kind of a really erratic top layer, and then the rest would be here. So that's that. Back to Houdini. Okay, so that's enough of the VR. You can always tell me if you don't like it. It was a bit hard to keep the headset still, but I can always mess around with it some other time. Cool, so let's start off by looking at the first one, the doorway sim. So here's the first one here, and this was the simple one where I had a hole in the floor and the points are going from the top to the bottom. So if I click play, you can see they start moving down, and if they hit the wall, they'll start going in other directions, but their main goal is to come through here and make it further into the next room. Now I won't leave these playing on the timeline for all the examples because it will take a while, but I can always scrub because I've cached it. So you'll see here, it slowly makes its way through. So that was the initial goal, and as always with examples, you tend to make one system and then see a couple more examples coming out of it. So if I go on to the next one, which is my hourglass sim. So same as before, but I wanted to see if it worked with diagonal lines. If I let it start rolling, you can see that it will start acting like an hourglass, and it will go through and it will trickle along. Now yeah, I could use a particle sim or a water sim here, but I prefer to have a bit more of a retro feel, a bit more manual control. And also by putting the Vex together for this, you kind of help to teach yourself at the same time. So I'll keep that going. I thought that one was cool. I can scrub a little bit. It's kind of like a martini fizzing away up there. Right, so the next example was sand mix. So this is like when you get those bottles as a kid and you fill it with sand, and then you change the color and you fill it with another level of sand. And this one, I could have put this color at the bottom already, but I just wanted to see the breakup a bit. Now you can see the blue ones here, or the purple, they want to get through, but they can't because the red has still made a solid wall. But once that starts breaking down and going southwards, these ones will start coming through the gaps. So that was pretty cool. And if I scrub through, you can see, it kind of looks like sand, but in a low gravity environment when it settles. And then you get that lovely pattern like that. Now, of course, it's low res, but at the same time, it's stylized. So I thought it was pretty cool. And you could always, zoom out and then increase the point count to be crazy numbers, and you get like a really nice pattern. But for here, I'm just going to go with this. So then on from that, I went on to try just plain water, see what would happen. So I have my container. I've added a few more gaps. And if I click play now, now obviously there's no gravity taken into this, it's just grid-like motion. But you got them bubbling over, which is cool. And they're coming through here. Just wait for them to settle a bit. If I scrub through, just enough to. Now I've noticed with my example, there's always this initial fizz when it just starts to rise up for the first time, but that's fine. There we go. So it's like when you get a can of Coke and it just fizzes over. There we go. Now this one's my favorite just because of the way it's trickling down, but then it's also leaving like air bubbles as it trickles up, which is really cool. It's like you could build an aquarium effect out of this. It's really cool. It's like digital water. Now the next one is pixel terrain. So this one's similar to the sand effect, but I was messing around, and again I just stumbled across this where if I was having just one mass trickle down to the bottom and then another mass come on top like the sand, it gives me like the outline of a coast, and then you got the sea. So that's why this is green and this blue. But of course, if this one is just at the bottom, the top one will settle on top of it without much, difference and chaos. So I forced it go through these holes here, and it just kind of gives it a bit of a breakup as well. So if I click play, so I've sped this one up a little bit. So that's kind of cool. What it's doing is it's slowly trickling through, and it will start laying down the foundation for the coast. And then once the water starts to get through, it will start adding the coast on top. So you're kind of generating a terrain, like a pixel-like terrain. So if I scrub the timeline a bit, as it builds up. Now I didn't even realize, but if you were to, because we're focusing on this room right now, but if you were to look at this one, it kind of gives you the effect that the landscape is eroding away, which is cool. But if we focus on this one, and you just let it build up over time, eventually, once all the particles have come through, you would have a nice shape. Now again, it's pixelated, of course, but then if you were to zoom out and make it higher res for whatever you need, you could get a nice. I just thought it's one way of many to generate just random patterns. So that's cool. And then last but not least, we got this acid. If I click play, it starts off with a digital rain effect, and that wasn't even on purpose. This was just, I wanted it to drop, see what happened before it starts fizzing away. Then it gets to the bottom, and then there you go. It's like a really cool, you've got acid at the bottom of your vial and it's just fizzing away. And all of these different effects, and all I wanted to do was have some points go through a door. So all in all, I was pretty pleased with the outcome. I hope you thought it looked cool, and thanks for putting up with the VR experiment at the beginning. I know it was kind of hard to follow along because of the motion of the headset, but it did feel easier to draw in 3D rather than trying to explain it and then have you visualize it. But I don't know if I'll do another one like that. We'll see. Cool. Thanks for watching.